This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology. The images are for illustration purposes only. There's something strange about this area, but it looks unusually calm. Sir Chirin, please tell me what dangers there are. Shuai Junwei frowned. A hint of fear appeared in Wei Chirin's eyes. Everything we see may not be real. Every step we take changes the scenery in front of us. This is definitely not an illusion. One step, one scene, Yun Xiao said. It's not an illusion? What's that? Wei Chirin swallowed his saliva and said, I can't explain it clearly, but everything is real. Perhaps there is a huge formation here. Yun Xiao's heart skipped a beat as he carefully observed the man. Indeed, he had a strange feeling. He couldn't help but think of the Four Seasons unique formation set up by the Light of the Throne on the Demon Land. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, the four poles changed. There was a formation within the formation, and it also achieved one scene with each step, constantly rotating in the four spacetime. In the end, if Noah's boat hadn't appeared and its power had overshadowed the eye of the formation, the unaging mountain, he might have fallen in it. The other two are missing, but I think there's a high chance they're trapped, Wei Chirin said with a bitter smile. In that case, Yun Xiao said, let's hurry and save them. Everyone looked at him with disdain, as if they were saying, if you have the guts, then go save him, you idiot. Yun Xiao smiled indifferently. Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, he took the lead and walked straight over. Everyone held their breath, shocked by Yun Xiao's courage. He had walked more than 100 meters alone, almost deep into the wilderness, but nothing seemed to have happened. Lord Chirin, it doesn't look as scary as you said, Shuai Junwei said suspiciously. Wei Chirin's mouth was wide open, and he did not understand. Judging from Yun Xiao's appearance, he was indeed fine. At that moment, Yun Xiao was standing alone hundreds of meters away. He suddenly stopped, turned around, and said, there's nothing. I can already see the end ahead. Are you all going to wait for me to pass through before you leave? The people from the two families exchanged a look. Since someone had confirmed that there was no problem, they naturally became bolder and began to step into the gate one after another, walking toward Yun Xiao. Suddenly, Wei Chirin cried out, look, why is there a lake? Everyone was greatly shocked and suddenly looked to the right. Sure enough, there was a lake quietly lying on the wilderness not far away. The sunlight shone on the lake, but it gave people a strange feeling. The group of more than 10 people were all martial emperor powerhouses. They had no idea when this lake had appeared beside them. It was simply unbelievable. Shuai Junwei's expression turned ugly. Is this lake really not an illusion? God knows, Wei Chirin said bitterly. We've been here several times, but we've never seen this lake. Everyone's heart trembled, and they became more and more vigilant. The danger of this treasure hunt might be above everyone's expectations. This lake is real. Suddenly, a voice came from behind them. Startled, everyone hurriedly turned their heads and saw Yun Xiao standing quietly behind them, looking at the lake with a gleam in his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. How did you get behind us? A member of the Shuai family was taken aback, and everyone had a strange look on their faces as they had the same question. They turned their heads and found that Yun Xiao, who had been far away from them, had indeed disappeared. This place is already mysterious enough, Wei Dongyang shouted angrily. Stop playing tricks. Yun Xiao turned around and looked suspicious as he said, what do you mean by acting mysterious? The man from the Shuai family was stunned for a moment before he said, you were just a few hundred meters in front of us. How did you suddenly appear behind us? Yun Xiao's eyes were filled with confusion, and then his face changed slightly as he said, you guys saw me in front of you? Of course, if it wasn't for you. As the man from the Shuai family spoke, his voice suddenly stopped, and his eyes were filled with horror. Yun Xiao's question had already explained a great problem. No one was a fool, and they immediately understood the situation. What do you mean? Shuai Junwei was shocked. Could it be that the person in front of us this whole time wasn't you? You weren't the one who called us in? As soon as I entered this area, I saw the so-called one step, one scenery, and I saw the lake in front of you, Yunxiao said in a deep voice. I observed it for a while, and it is indeed real, not an illusion. After that, I saw you guys walking over as well. Furthermore, you guys ignored me and just walked past me, directly walking in front of me. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, immediately feeling cold all over. What a joke. Wei Dongyang's face was livid as he said angrily, "This joke isn't funny at all." Yunxiao rolled his eyes at him, and his face grew solemn as he said, "Because this is not a joke. Tell me everything you've experienced." Shuai Junwei immediately explained the situation briefly, and everyone felt their blood run cold. Yunxiao did not say a word after hearing that, and he fell into deep thought. Shuai Junwei couldn't help but say, "Lord Yunxiao, have you thought of something?" For some reason, Shuai Junwei felt that Yunxiao was the most reliable one among them. The longer he spent time with him, the stronger this feeling became. It was a natural aura of a king that subtly influenced the people around him. Suddenly, Wei Zihua, a Wei family warrior, trembled and said in surprise, "Lord Yunxiao? Li Yunxiao, you are Li Yunxiao. The #1 rising star." Everyone in the world knew about the battle in Red Moon City. Although no one from the Wei family had participated at that time, Yunxiao's portrait had spread all over the world. As Wei Zihua was in charge of intelligence work, he had felt that Yunxiao looked familiar at first, but he could not remember who he was until now. All the people of the Wei family were shocked. They naturally knew Yunxiao's name, and even Wei Dongyang was taken aback. Besides, everyone knew that Yunxiao was a 6 stars Martial Supreme, and his Martial Dao Foundation had been destroyed, making it difficult for him to make any further progress in his life. But now, the strength displayed in front of them was that of a martial emperor, which shocked the people of the Wei family. The Battle of the Red Moon City had only happened a short while ago. Even if he had been a peak 6 stars Martial Supreme at that time, it was impossible for him to break through to the Martial Supreme realm in such a short time. What made Wei Dongyang even more uneasy was that everyone knew that Yunxiao had a very good relationship with Red Moon City. Although something had happened in Red Moon City and there were undercurrents in it, it was by no means something the Wei family could afford to provoke. No wonder this brat looked like he didn't care about anyone, and even Shuai Junwei was polite to him. After knowing Yunxiao's identity, the little bit of killing intent in Wei Dongyang's heart was immediately gone, and instead, he felt a resentment toward the commander's prestige. He knew that this man was a tricky iron plate, but he still watched him walk into it step by step. Wei Dongyang's tactful face was revealed again as he forced a smile and said, "So, it's the #1 of the rising stars. No wonder his strength is heaven-defying." Dongyang's eyes were dim. "I hope Lord Yunxiao doesn't blame him." Wei Zihua also laughed in embarrassment. After the battle in Red Moon City, Lord Yunxiao's name spread throughout the world. "I originally wanted to go and see Lord's glory, but after the Immortal Land closed, the entire Red Moon City was in turmoil, and it has become a place of trouble." Wei Dongyang gave him an appreciative look. Wei Zihua's words were just right. When he mentioned the affairs of Red Moon City, he could also indirectly speculate the relationship between Yunxiao and the current Red Moon City. If the relationship was not strong, he would not need to be careful. Yunxiao frowned and said, "A place of trouble? Are you referring to the matter of City Lord Jiang?" "City Lord Jiang?" Wei Zihua's body trembled and he said in surprise, "What's wrong with City Lord Jiang? Could it be that Lord Yunxiao knows of City Lord Jiang's news?" After the Immortal Land was closed, Jiang Churen never appeared again. It was mostly because of the rumors that he had already died. Otherwise, he would not have allowed the 4 extreme sect to forcefully enter. However, rumors were just rumors. No one could be 100% sure of the life and death of such a peerless figure without any definite news. A cold look gradually appeared on Yunxiao's face as he said in a cold voice, "If it's not about Jiang Churen, what do you mean by a place of trouble?" After he fell unconscious, he stayed in Long Valley City for 2 days before coming to this strange place. He knew nothing about the changes in Red Moon City. Wei Zihua was taken aback for a moment, then immediately explained the current situation in Red Moon City. Yunxiao's body trembled, and his aura spread out uncontrollably. His face was terrifyingly dark as he said, "What did you just say? Tang Qing of the Four Extremes sect has become the leader of the Red Moon City?" At this moment, his heart was already in turmoil, and he immediately realized the seriousness of the matter. With such a change in the Red Moon City, Ning Qiue was most likely in trouble. Otherwise, he would never allow such a thing to happen. A green light flashed in his hand, and a jade card appeared. It was the life-saving talisman that Ning Qiue had given him. She had asked him to crush it in times of danger so that the other party could locate him at any time. Looking at the jade pendant, his expression was extremely uncertain. He wanted to press it down and break it several times, but he resisted the urge. Holding it in his hand, he felt that it was getting heavier and heavier. Wei Zihua was taken aback. He immediately had many speculations in his mind. He asked carefully, "Lord Yunxiao, are you all right?" The killing intent in Yunxiao's eyes was almost frozen. Even though all the people present were martial sovereigns, they still felt a bone-chilling coldness. Under the monstrous killing intent, they could not help but take a few steps back before they could breathe a sigh of relief. Yunxiao put away the jade pendant and slowly calmed his mind. After experiencing the matter of the end of time, he had returned to the body of a martial emperor, and his mind was calmer than before. "I'm fine." Everyone gave each other a strange look. Yunxiao's behavior clearly showed that he had something to do, and it was a big deal. He was a typical insincere man. But no one was stupid enough to ask. Not to mention that the killing intent Yunxiao had just revealed had suffocated everyone, it was enough to show that his true combat strength was absolutely terrifying. Moreover, this matter concerned Red Moon City, which was not something they could afford to provoke. The smartest choice was to play dumb and not know anything. Yunxiao's face was ferocious for a while before it gradually returned to normal. The bulging blue veins on his face faded, and the terrifying chill in his body was retracted, completely gone. At this moment, his face was expressionless, just like the calm appearance of an ancient well. He opened his mouth and said, "If I'm not wrong, the spirit arrays and barriers here should be related to time, showing different scenes at different times, so there's nothing strange about it. The me you saw earlier, on the other hand, is a little strange." When everyone saw that his anger had disappeared in an instant and that he had calmed down so quickly, they all secretly admired him. At the same time, they felt how terrifying this person was. A strong sense of fear rose in their hearts, and they thought that they must not become his enemy. Shui Junwei said, "I've been watching Lord Yunxiao walk into this desolation. Not only my gaze, but even my divine sense has been attached to you. There's nothing unusual. It's impossible for someone else to be a fake." The rest of the people had the same expression on their faces. They had the same thought in their hearts. It was unlikely that something would happen under the eyes of so many martial emperor powerhouses. "I know what you're thinking," Yunxiao said indifferently. "But, for example, who has discovered the appearance of this lake? If this forsaken land was really set up by Yue Xian, I'm afraid that something even weirder will happen." When everyone thought of it this way, they were relieved. After all, Yue Xian was also a legendary almighty, an existence that they looked up to. "Then what should we do now?" Wei Dongyang's expression was ugly. The appearance of the lake was beyond everyone's expectations. Even the Wei family's intelligence report didn't mention this. The route that they had explored before seemed to be useless. "If the scenery here changes according to time," Yunxiao said, "then we just have to wait here until the familiar route of your Wei family appears." Wei Qiren nodded in agreement. This is indeed a good idea. However, if Lord Yunxiao's guess is wrong, or the period of the time phase change is too long, what should we do? "I'll set a time limit," Yunxiao said. "If there are no changes, we can only continue moving forward. If there was a path before, there will be a path now." Fear flashed across Wei Qiren's face as he said, "Let's wait a little longer. In order to find the right way, many people died. The path we are familiar with is the safest." Wei Dongyang pondered and said, "How long is it appropriate to wait? What time did you enter this desolate land the last time you were here?" Wei Qiren pondered for a while. "I didn't pay attention to the exact time," he said. but it's mostly noon. Then let's wait for another day, Wei Dongyang said. After 24 hours, if the scene still doesn't change, then the time rule here is extremely long. Waiting isn't a solution, so we can only find another way. Everyone agreed and sat down on the lakeshore, beginning to meditate and adjust their breathing. For cultivators like them who were in closed-door cultivation all year round, a day's time was just like the blink of an eye. Wei Dongyang casually threw out his jade ruler and injected several incantation seals into it. The jade ruler transformed into a silver cloth that spread in the air and enveloped everyone. Shuai Junwei raised his eyes and glanced at the man. He put on a fake smile and mumbled, "Brother Dongyang's East Pole Thousand Blades ruler can be used for both offense and defense. It's famous in the eastern region and makes me envious and jealous." Wei Dongyang smiled faintly. "This place is too complicated and dangerous. I'm afraid of sudden danger. It's always good to have one more defense." Speaking of a profound level weapon that is famous in the eastern region and can both attack and defend, it should be Xian's Waren's Supreme Yang umbrella, right? He looked at Yunxiao out of the corner of his eye with a smile. Yunxiao was not stingy. He took out the little red umbrella, flew into the sky, and opened it. Tens of thousands of red beams shot out, shining with the green light of the Eastern Pole Thousand Blades jade ruler. With these two profound level weapons as a defense in the air, everyone felt a thick sense of security. They began to meditate and regulate their breathing with ease. Wei Qiren was still full of worry. He seemed to be very afraid of this place and couldn't meditate in peace, so he took on the task of standing guard. Yunxiao closed his eyes and materialized in the Divine Realm tablet. In the next moment, he arrived at Mount Innerheart and looked over. Gu Yuesheng seemed to have sensed something. He immediately flew out of the mountain and greeted her respectfully, "Lord Yunxiao." He had long known Yunxiao's identity, and he revered him very much. Yunxiao stared at the mountain, as if he could see through it at a glance. "Yuan Gaohan is going to break through to the 9th rank? My master is trying to break through to become a 9th-tier alchemist." Gu Yuesheng's heart skipped a beat. "What can I do for you, Lord Yunxiao?" He also knew the relationship between Yuan Gaohan and Yunxiao, and he was very nervous for fear that Yunxiao would do something to Yuan Gaohan. Yunxiao saw through his mind at a glance and said, "You don't have to be nervous. Brother Gaohan will be able to break through to the 9th step. At that time, he will become one with his main body and reach the peak. I'm also happy for him." With that, he disappeared from Mount Innerheart. Looking at the place where Yunxiao had disappeared, the worry on Gu Yuesheng's face did not fade. After all, Yunxiao had imprisoned Yuan Gaohan for so long and worked hard for him every day. On the surface, they seemed to have a good relationship, but only God knew if Yuan Gaohan would try his best to take revenge when they got out. If Yunxiao had such a worry, Yuan Gaohan would be in danger. But at this moment, he and Yuan Gaohan were completely under the control of others, without the slightest strength to resist, and could only take one step at a time. After leaving Minuscule Mountain, Yunxiao went straight to the side of gourd little King Kong, who was still floating quietly in the air. When he checked with his divine sense, he found that the ice flame and his heart were still in his body, giving him an extreme sense of silence, as if time had stopped. With a wave of his right hand, Yunxiao threw a piece of red gravel into the body of gourd little King Kong. Plop. With a muffled sound, the chest of the gourd little King Kong shattered and turned into powder. The material that constructed its body had long been completely destroyed, so how could it withstand this impact? Yunxiao frowned. After the red gravel shot into the chest of gourd little King Kong, it was immediately frozen by the ice flame and died. The demonic dragon materialized and stood quietly behind him, saying that ice flame must be a 10th grade item, on the same level as your phoenix divine flame. If you want to get rid of it, I'm afraid you'll have to use the power of your divine flame. Yunxiao's face turned solemn. How could he not have realized this? However, the original flame of the phoenix true fire was only a small cluster, and it was not an eternal existence. If the ice flame could compete with the divine fire, he was afraid that it would hurt the origin of the divine fire and affect the territory power of the divine realm tablet. Actually, it's just a choice, the demon dragon said. Other than a level 10 divine fire, where else in the world can you find something that can resist this ice flame? Unless you give up on this half-beast half-artifact. Yunxiao pondered for a moment, then seemed to have made up his mind as he quickly made a hand seal. A ray of 5-colored light appeared in the sky. The clouds in the sky changed and the cauldron of mountain and river slowly descended amidst the light. It floated in front of him. With a thought from Yunxiao, gourd little King Kong fell into the cauldron. With a loud bang, the cauldron began to spin, exuding the power of the world and slowly glowing. This was the first time Yunxiao had used the cauldron of mountain and river since he had become a martial emperor. At this moment, his feeling and understanding had been greatly improved. The rivers and mountains on the cauldron were flowing, and the chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers were spreading out. Life and death are up to the heavens. If you die, don't blame me. Yunxiao said softly, then made a gesture with his hands. A little flame was burning in it. Although it was very small, it made the whole space freeze. This was the original fire of the Phoenix Divine Fire. It was only the size of a thumb in the palm of one's hand. It flew onto the cauldron of mountain and river, and with a boom, the entire cauldron shone with light. Sounds came from within the cauldron, like wheels rolling. Then, countless red beams gathered in front of Yunxiao, which were the pieces of red gravel, and flew toward the cauldron. When the sand was a few meters away from the cauldron of mountain and river, it suddenly condensed into a huge sand giant. With a frightened look on its face, it resisted Yunxiao's will and kept trying to retreat. Yunxiao's face was filled with surprise. Each of his thoughts was the strongest rule of this realm, and these grains of sand could actually hold each other together and resist the power of rules of the Divine Realm tablet. He cast a spell in the air and imprinted it directly into the cauldron of mountain and river. Immediately, a loud roar came from the cauldron, and a ray of light shot out, devouring the gravel giant like a demonic beast. In an instant, there was a violent aura coming out of the cauldron of mountain and river. It was the fierceness of the countless gravel that was refined. Outside the heart of the gourd little King Kong, the original fire of the Phoenix True Fire slowly descended. The ice flame seemed to wake up from the eternal silence. The heart of the flame began to beat, but every beat was very mechanical, and the movements seemed to be incoherent. The two flames finally collided, and a monstrous power spread out in all directions. Like a flood, all the gravel was swallowed up in an instant. Then, Yunxiao's divine sense emerged out of thin air in the cauldron of mountain and river, taking shape and making incantation gestures with both hands, reflecting each other with the avatar outside the cauldron. Ancient Maha characters appeared on the cauldron's wall one after another, transforming into laws that fell and attacked the power of the two flames. At the center of the terrifying power, Yunxiao could clearly feel that the heart, which had stopped beating for a long time, had finally begun to beat slightly. Yunxiao was overjoyed. The clone sat down in the cauldron and began to carefully observe and refine it. Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out in the barren land. Yunxiao's real body frowned and opened his eyes very reluctantly. Although he had divided two incarnations to guard and refine the Divine Realm tablet, driving the cauldron of mountain and river and controlling such a complicated and dangerous refinement process would consume a lot of his main body. Fatigue flashed in his opened eyes as he saw Wei Qiren walking toward the center of the lake, step by step. More than half of his body was already submerged in the water.